right, here I am on the top of my 2018 Unity twin bed, and today's job is to figure out how to remove the flex panels. I'm going to start with this flex panel. This is the one that is not working well. Partially, I believe, is because you can probably see it. All this stuff here is actually plastic, which I believe was the protective layer that was supposed to be removed after it was installed. It never did. So now it's all baked on, and it's interfering with the amount of power this thing can actually produce. Now I'm going to use a putty knife and use that to just more or less start getting some, scraping some of this excess adhesive and putty out of the way. So I've already checked on here where the grommets are. There's actually nothing in there. I had peeled away one of them and saw there's nothing. So let me start seeing if I can get this thing to peel up, preferably without damaging it, although this is the first, since this one's kind of already damaged, I'm not as worried about it, but I'm hoping to save the other three as potential portable panels after I install the new panels here up on the roof for extra power. Okay, using the putty knife is working fairly well. Hold it at a bit of an angle, and with a couple hands you can run it along the seam right there, and then use this to actually pry up a little bit. It's starting to come up. Now I have to get the glue that's actually underneath. I believe using the putty knife I'll be able to get that under there and get that taken care of. Now interesting, this is a die-core, I believe, and it's still very flexible and a little bit sticky still. So some pretty good stuff for sealing these things. Now here, I'm starting to get to the adhesive underneath, and putting the putty knife underneath and push in, and you can feel where the adhesive is. I'm finding rocking the blade back and forth tends to slowly work its way through it. And there's trying to find, there's another spot in the middle. So it's just a case of working the blade back and forth and trying to break it free. And since these are a little flexible, you can lift these things up when you have a spare hand too. So I've already gotten one side here kind of lifted a little bit, and you can see underneath there's what it kind of looks like. So it's going to just be a little slow process, but shouldn't take terribly long to get each one of these things up. So we'll see how it goes. Now I noticed two of the panels have got the die-core around the edges all the way around. This one and one over on the other side. The front two don't have that. Now I don't know why it's like that. It's probably because two of these were installed at the factory, because this was originally a 200 watt installation, and when we got this RV, we were actually, it was somebody else that ordered it with 200, and we wanted 400, so we had the local dealer add the additional two. So which ones were which, I have no idea. Well, working with a putty knife does fairly well for the two outside pieces. As you can see, those are relatively easily hit, but trying to get that middle one with the putty knife is tough. Even though this is bendable, just getting your knuckles in there, and the blade's basically too short for that. So got an idea and tried it out, and I had about a 4-foot piece of 1" by 1/8" aluminum bar down the basement for another project. And what I did was use the file, and I don't know if you put it on a black background, put a little bit of a knife edge into it, not sharp because I don't want to scratch the gel coat, but using this gives me the leverage and also to get underneath there, and it's faster than the putty knife. So I'm going to go ahead and use this to get the remaining parts of the adhesive off, and we'll see what it looks like underneath. All right, first one removed. This is kind of what's laying there, and this is the underside. You can see some discoloration. There's evidence that even though this thing was sealed with Dicor, it's still got some water underneath here. I'm seeing the same micro cracks everybody's talking about from heat in the gel coat, but other than that, I'm not seeing any real damage, discoloration. It's hard to tell whether a lot of this is probably heat related. Yeah, actually, because you can see where the individual cells were located, the black cells, so it helps transmit heat also down. So anyway, looks pretty good. Looks like they used some type of a tape to hold the adhesive tape, and it might be very well be some of the 3M tape. So one down, 3 more to go. It actually wasn't too bad. I didn't time myself on how long it took, but it, with the new tool, this is much easier for getting and scraping all these guys. I did make sure I didn't put a sharp point on this thing. It was, let's see if we can get it in focus. Doesn't want to go in focus. But anyway, it's, I kind of rounded the edges and didn't take it to a sharp point. That way, trying to keep from actually gouging into the gel coat. So, continuing on. All right, now, 2 done. This is showing the same type of heat damage underneath, but since this is only a 2018, it's not nearly as bad and discolored as I saw from some of the people who were pulling from 17s and 16s. But this tape they use to glue this stuff down is pretty good. And one thing I found out also is that you don't want to be kneeling on a section that you've already peeled up, because it will reattach itself, and you've got to do it again. The long tool is working out pretty good. Still need the putty knife for a lot of the more delicate areas, like where there's other putty coming in, and just not room for maneuvering a big long tool. But for getting the big stuff underneath, it's working out pretty well. It might be a little harder on this one here in front, because I have the air conditioner behind it and the vent right in front of it. So it might be a little harder, but maybe I can attack it from the side. The one in the front, similar situation with the skylight and the TV antenna up in the front. But the nice thing about those is neither of those have got Dicor around the outside edges. So that's just one less thing to have to peel up. So anyway, so far looking pretty good. The only thing I've noticed is in an effort to save these panels, taking them off, I have caused some damage. You can see in those white scratches in there. I don't know how that's going to affect the power output. I'll measure that once I get these things actually detached. That'll be one of the next steps. Is actually I've got to unscrew the connections into the roof where that's holding down the wires, and undo the MC4 connectors on these things. Looks like we might have some rain, so I'm kind of been, one of the reasons I haven't taken those things out yet is not ready to have to worry about the holes in the roof in the rain. If I can get these things off where they're just laying here, that'll be enough for now. Panel number 3 is off. This one took probably twice as long as getting the first 2 off, which were just held on by single strips of look like double-sided type tape. This one has got dots of adhesive pretty much everywhere, and since it wasn't secured with, or no Dicor was around the edges, water was underneath, and so you can see it's pretty filthy. Now this is, I've actually cleaned it up a bit. I've scraped up most of the sealant or the glue that was on the roof. It's a little bit of a pile there, but even here we can see the brown spots, and if anything, it looks like there's more gel coat cracking in this one than there was in the other two. Now I'm kind of guessing these may have been the original ones, but I'm not sure. I don't, like I said, I got two different ways of putting them on. So anyway, now to work on panel number 4, which I'm kneeling on. Based on what these panels look like after I've gotten them up, they're probably not going to be usable. There's lots of cracks. I also changed the front end on my tool. Let's see if we can make it a little sharper. I made it a shallower angle, and I also sanded down the sides so it's not quite a little bit sharper thing. Pretty much that's the only way I was going to be able to get this in underneath and get to these things, because actually the putty knife wouldn't reach in far enough. You can see the distance these circles started on these things. So anyway, back to work. All right, that's number 4. Again, it's 4 rows, lots of dots. And here's what it looks like before I even start cleaning up. And again, I can see the brown discolorations. I see a lot of cracking in between the adhesive, at least. So I have to be looking into that. So a lot of cleanup work yet to do. So while I was taking a little break, I cleaned off the junction box and some of the wires here, and preparation to take a look and see how that's all set up, depending on how the wiring situation is with the new panels. So I'm hoping I got enough wires already that the panels will more or less hook right up. If not, I'll have to order some additional MC4, not MC4, but more wire to hook up and MC4 connectors for it. Well, after a lot of work and scraping to get that old adhesive up, I got most of it pretty much up. This LA Awesome works pretty good. I use it for a lot of stuff on the RV, just keeping bugs off too. But if anything, I can see the micro cracks much better here, and you can see they're a lot worse than they are on the other section of the other 2 panels where I removed. So going to continue cleaning, get everything ready to go, take these panels off, and be ready. Hopefully the new panels show up tomorrow and I can start that next section. The front 2 panels are removed and cleaned up underneath. Cleanup actually was, despite being harder to get off, these are easier to clean up. Unfortunately, I'm finding that the tape over here, because is a little bit harder to clean up. I've started using the Simply Awesome. It helps keep things from sticking to each other, but it's going to be a slow process. I'll work on this tomorrow. In the meantime, there's the 4 panels out in the yard.